Hey Joanne, how are you? Yeah. Yeah. Do I want to go where? You're kidding. I'm just looking to book a holiday in Tenerife. When are you planning on going? What, in March? That's when I'm going to Tenerife. Because it's warm. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Iceland. Yeah, I have always wanted to go to Iceland. Probably ever since I'd said to my art teacher back in 1982, what the hell do you want to go to Iceland for? It's just ice. I learnt a lot then. Yeah. Okay, what are we doing? Whale watching? Pony trekking? It's not really me. On black sands, I suppose. Snorkeling in Iceland in March. Are you off your rocker? Okay. I'll look into it. I can't promise anything. I can't. Nope. I want to do photography. You know, all the waterfalls. It's what Iceland's famous for. The landscape, waterfalls, glaciers. Oh, you want to do ice caves as well? Right, okay. How long are you planning on going for? 4 days. It's on Jet 2, that's what I'm looking at. No, that's 2 days, Joanne. That's leaving on the Monday and coming back on the Thursday. That's 2 days. That's 2.5 days. It's not 4 days. You won't get everything in. I'll look into it. I'll book. I'm on Jet 2 now. I'll look into it. See you soon. Bye. Hey, we're on board. Who are we with, Joanne?
Jet 2, Alistair. Ooh.
Cheers. It's a bit bumpy.
A bit bumpy.
Oh dear. Well, hello and welcome back to Accessible Photography. And in case you think, Alistair, you're in a snowstorm and you're filming whilst driving, I'm not driving because I'm abroad. Therefore, there is no steering wheel in front of me. The lovely Joanne is driving us through a bit of a blizzard at the moment. I think it's just blowing snow. We're following a truck on a big road and we're heading down to one of the first waterfalls on the trip. The scenery around here is just spectacular. It really is wonderful and it changes by the minute. So where are we? We're in Iceland. And it's not the shop. Mum didn't go to Iceland. We went to the proper country of Iceland. And this is the first time Accessible Photography has been out of Scotland. And I didn't even go to England for the first time. I went to Iceland. And only went to Iceland because Joanne asked, did I want to go to Iceland? I was going to go to Tenerife, another Atlantic island with black volcanic beaches where you can sunbathe. Unfortunately, we came to one where you'll get frostbite if you sunbathe on the beach here. But Joanne, she's the type of person who actually wants to go snorkeling in freezing conditions. I'm not going to do that. But what we are going to do today is pony trekking. And that's going to be at the end of the day, and before then we're going to go and have a look at one waterfall after the other until we're waterfalled out, and then the pony tracking will seem quite exciting to me. So on this trip is myself and Joe, who we've shown you, and Dawn in the back seat. And they will be probably interfering with everything I do, getting in the way of my images, interfering with the video recording, but that's what it's all about. On this trip, I'm going to be showing you not only the places to photograph, but how to do it when you're out and about with family or friends, because we can't all be individual photographers going out and photographing this wonderful landscape on our own. Sometimes we have to do it with a group because it's more sociable, it's better to do generally, but they don't like photographers taking an hour to take a picture. So let's see what we can do
In 4.5 minutes.
in 4.5 minutes. Thank you, Joanne.
You're very welcome.
It actually looks better on the camera. You could probably drive by the camera. No, we can't. That is just incredible. This is literally whiteout conditions. Although it looks good on the camera, we can only see properly 10 meters in front, 20 meters at the top, and then it just disappears. We're now down to about between 5 and 10 meters, clearing again now. Joe's doing really, really well with this. It does. I can't get over how much we're seeing in the video, and we can't see ahead of us. That's pure whiteout. So the camera is giving us better contrast, and we're seeing the road. Right, I'm going to switch off now because we can't see a thing. Into the Icelandic trot.
What you did this morning when you went to the bathroom.
Oh, I did the Icelandic trot all right. I think I'm doing the Icelandic trot again later. Yeah, it's moving through quick. So after that horrendous weather up on the plateau, we're now down pretty much at sea level, heading down to Sellenfoss. The time that Google says is just under 2 hours, but in reality it's going to take us about 2 hours 45 minutes. We did stop briefly for a loo break. It wasn't really that long. We didn't lose time there. It just shows that these places are all a really long way away from Reykjavik, and you can't really guarantee that the time it says on Google Maps is going to be accurate. I think more populated places where Google Maps gets more information from more cars and people traveling, it probably works better, but it just seemingly just now is not working very well. So that's something we're going to take into account, because we're going to be very tight for schedule later on in this trip. Anyway, next stop is Sellenfoss Waterfall. So this was the view of Sellenfoss as we drove up. It's not something you can miss easily. So after we got parked up in the car park, we all got out the car and got dressed accordingly for the weather. And I went to the back of the car and started to sort out my vlogging gear and my camera gear. And at that point I heard Joanne say, "See you in 5 minutes." Now I knew she didn't mean 5 minutes, but that time constraint was implanted. So I started to rush what I was doing, and I picked up my trusty GoPro. I put the Rode mic system on the top. I plugged my cable into the Rode and plugged the cable into the bit for the mic there. And if you know Rode mics, you know I've got it wrong, because the grey bit indicates that's for the phone, not for a camera. So in reality, the receiver was getting the information from the transmitter, but it wasn't transferring into the camera. So I was seeing audio on the top of there, but nothing was going into the camera, so I had no audio. But you may have seen from an earlier video that I actually dropped transmitter into the water. So that was actually way getting repaired and wasn't going to be back in time for Iceland. So I actually forked out for more Rode kit. I got the latest Rode Wireless 2, which gives a backup copy of your audio on the unit itself. Woohoo! All I need to do is match up the audio with the visuals, which is easier said than done, and it'll be fine. Except it didn't record. I got about 10% of my recordings actually recorded, and the rest showed 0 bytes. You could see when I'd switched it on for recording, but it didn't record anything. I wasn't a happy bunny. So that's why there's not going to be so many videos, because there's no point in doing a video when there's no audio. So the multiple videos I wanted to do on this one day are now all in one video, which is this one. But I did manage to salvage a couple of little bits of audio and video together, and here's the first bit. So heading up to the waterfall just now, looking to see if we can get an interesting viewpoint. It's all roped off, so there's no walking on the grass, because the grass and mosses take a long time to grow here, and they don't want people crushing it all down, killing it off. So they rope it off, make sure you stay on the path. So finding a point to take a photograph which is fairly unique is probably highly unlikely. Also, they don't allow drones either, so I can't put a drone up and show you that view either, although it is a little bit windy for drones today. We had some horrendous weather, but at the moment it's quite nice, and hopefully we'll get a shot of Sellenfoss waterfall. So I decided the view that I wanted was with the stream as a lead-in line to the waterfall. So I set myself up beside this little bridge. Now when I arrived, there was a woman holding on to her husband's ankles as he reached down into the water to retrieve his D750 and tripod. He'd slipped on this little slope going up to the bridge, and the whole lot had gone over the edge and into the water. Not a great thing to happen on your holiday, is it? What happened to me was I got distracted by other people, and I hadn't realised that I'd set the camera to run and then got asked to take a picture for someone. And when it came back later, I switched the camera off instead of switching the camera on again. So I didn't really get me talking to camera at all, which is probably just as well, because there was no audio anyway. But the first image I took was this one here, and a bit of a stick pointing out into the water, so I didn't really like that. So I reset, as you can see me moving the camera, and as I move the camera you can see in the background people literally slipping down the steps up to a viewpoint, which was actually roped off, but people were just ignoring it and going up anyway. An accident waiting to happen. So reset up the camera, that sticks out the way, and I'm using the stream as a line leading up to the waterfall itself. It was very difficult to get this image because it was very bright sky at this time and the waterfall was in deep shadow. So what I did was I actually did 2 images to show. One is an HDR and the other one is the image just amended in post, bringing up the shadows and bringing down the brightness of the sky. I hope you like it. So because of the perceived time constraint, I decided it was best to head back to the car, because I thought the girls might be waiting for me and I've got the keys. So off I toddled, and as you can see, I'm talking to camera with no audio. And what I'm actually talking about is not just like the composition that I was able to get, but the fact I would like to have got a bit more, but that the waterfall was in deep shadow. And the best time to get it would be actually in the afternoon, or probably into the evening, when the sun's gone round to the west and is shining on the falls. And if you've looked at Iceland pictures before, you'll have seen some fantastic pictures from behind this fall, looking out towards the sun going down. And that would be a fantastic thing to get. But it wasn't going to happen on this trip because it was so cold and icy, they'd roped off that path to the back of the waterfall. And of course, the sun would probably be going down in a different place. So I got back to the car, dropped off the camera, went looking for Joe and Dawn, and the weather changed dramatically, and it is absolutely blowing a hoolie. This is unbelievable. It was blue sky and puffy white clouds, and then the next thing, it's a storm. Quite unbelievable. Needless to say, I wasn't very happy when I discovered the girls had gone off to look at all the other waterfalls. And Joanne said, "But you said there was more waterfalls." I did, but I wasn't expecting them to go and have a look at them. And matters were made worse when she said, "But you wouldn't have got to them anyway because you didn't have any boots on and we had to cross water." I thought, thanks a lot. But the outcome of that was really that we would have to improve our communications before we went off and did things, because we knew we'd be doing things separately. But as I was already in the car, I was in the driving seat, and we were now going to head off down to Skogafoss waterfall. And me being me, I decided that I didn't need to punch it into sat nav. It was basically down the same road that we came in on, and it would be on the left-hand side. And I thought it was about a 10-minute drive, but it was actually about 30 kilometers, which is more like half an hour drive with their speed limits. So off we went down the road, and I couldn't get over the scenery. It was absolutely beautiful because that snowstorm passed and better weather came through. Not fantastic weather, but it was a lot better than it was. And I could see a scene as I was going down, and I really wanted to stop the car and take a picture. But you're not allowed to stop at the side of the road in Iceland. It's illegal. The roads are too narrow, and if you're not right off the road, you're not allowed to do it. End of. It's just far too dangerous. And you can see why, because when the snow does come, you can't see ahead of you. So if there's a car half out onto the roadway, you're going to hit it. So we drove on a little bit until I found a farm track, and I was able to get off the road and hopefully not block the track for too long, and take a little walk back a little bit to get this image first, and then another image just afterwards, before it was time to head on to Skogafoss. So then it was back in the car and down to Skogafoss waterfall. Now, it wasn't punched into the sat-nav, and my research had indicated that road signage in Iceland wasn't the best. Certainly not for non-Icelanders trying to read their signage at speed in possibly even bad weather. So as we went down, I was being really careful, looking to see if we could see the waterfall. And I got a glimpse, and there was a road to the left, and I took it. It was the wrong road, needless to say. It was one road just short of where we should have been. But what it did was it gave me this image here. We then made it round to the correct road and into the big car park for Skogafoss. So I set myself up in the river, and the reason for that was I'd seen other people do similar images, and bring the river in is an excellent way to bring in a bit of a leading line, but also if you're really lucky, and I was a little bit lucky, for a change, and there was some reflections as well. So you can see the waterfall coming down in the distance, but you can see the reflection of it in the water just in front of me. Had I been able to bring rubber boots with me, and I did try, but they were just too big and bulky, I'd have got further out into the water and probably got a slightly better composition. I then moved forward a little bit and set myself up beside another photographer. And that's the nice thing to do, because if you decide to set yourself up ahead of another photographer, then you're in their image. So I set up, we nodded to each other, and I carried on taking pictures. And the images I was able to get there were using people that had gone right up to the edge of the spray to take their photographs and use them as scale to show just how big Skogafoss actually is. If you note the tripod in the first images and how it blew down in the end, you'll get an idea of what we were actually putting up with. What I didn't notice was by that time Joe and Dawn were now in my images. So it was at that point that I had to change the battery on the GoPro, which means taking the GoPro out of this case. And to do so, you have to unplug this bit here, as you can see. And what I didn't do was plug it back in again before I started talking to camera when Joe and Dawn came up to see me. So it looks like my time here is just about done, because Joe and Dawn have arrived back, it's been up to the top, they've had a great time, and I've just been stuck down here because this is accessible photography and I'm not going up there to take photographs. No way.
Non-accessible photography.
I'm just going to try a little landscape version of this. Wide enough, close enough. I was just packing up, and the gentleman beside me says, "Get the rainbow." Let's see if you can see the rainbow in there. There's the rainbow. Fantastic. So after the rainbow, we decided I was going to move forward and try and get a really good cold look at this waterfall and get the snow in. Hey, I think it's snow. Maybe it's frozen mist. I just don't know. And I saw this woman step out and pose for a photographer. And I wasn't going to miss. I was going to get that photograph. But one thing I had done was I'd noticed that damn cable wasn't plugged in. So I plugged it in to make sure I got audio. And of course, what happened? I got no audio. But here's the best image from that scene. So here I am walking back to the car, discussing the images I'd taken, and again, not realising I had no audio. What I also did not know was Joe and Dawn had spent time in the car Googling local places of interest, and they'd found a free access hot pool to get into. Even though they didn't really have their cosy with them, they were going to go anyway. In fact, they were quite happy to go skinny dipping if they wanted. Me, I wasn't up for doing that. Yes, you heard me right, I wasn't up for going skinny dipping. And the main reason for that was I wasn't really happy that we were taking a detour. In fact, we were going 8 kilometres back up the road we'd just come down on, and then 3 kilometres inland to a car park where they were going to then walk 15 minutes to the pool to go for a quick dip. Nah, wasn't happening for me. So I took them up the road, dropped them off, and went off to do some photography. As we drove up the valley, the light was absolutely fantastic. But of course, it faded by the time I parked the car and got out to take some images. I vlogged it, but of course, no sound. I was discussing the view and how the road did not add to the scene. I took a couple of images and created a handheld pano as time was short. I watched the weather roll through and got what I could of that before moving on a few kilometres into glorious sunshine. On a personal level, I was quite pleased with the images I got in the sunshine. I think probably just because of the fact that they were in the sunshine. I wouldn't say they were anything special. I liked them. Here they are. On the road out from the car park from the pool, I found Dawn and Joe walking towards me. Turns out the pipe feeding the pool was broken and the pool empty, so they just turned and walked back. I drove us down to Vic, passing places I'd wanted to stop at and take pictures. I'd even thought we'd have time to see the plane wreck on the beach by using the shuttle bus service, but that was definitely not happening. I was keen to view a sea arch with sea stacks beyond, but that was not happening. I'd wanted to see a sea cave and sea stacks from the most dangerous beach in Iceland, but thankfully we didn't have time, for as you will see, the dangerous waves there are also present at Vic itself. We arrived at the pony trekking centre with 10 minutes to spare and were greeted with, "Didn't you get our email? It's cancelled because of the weather." There was some disappointment, but I had already taken the decision not to go pony trekking. It was just too cold and too sore when the hail came. There's no way I was going to do it. I also knew that doing it would sap far too much of my precious energy, as I knew I was already getting quite tired. I was though adamant that I was going to be taking pictures of the sea stacks from the Black Beach. I knew with rough seas around them, the images I could get could be quite spectacular, and there's no way I was going to let that go. The girls at Vic Horse Adventure told me I could get to the Black Beach just by walking out from the back of the stables, which was handy as it meant we didn't have to get the car round to another car park beside some shops. They did look at me quizzically though, the fact that I wanted to go onto the beach and take photographs, but I said I'm aware of sneaker waves and to be careful. And one of them just sort of looked, I'm glad somebody's aware. So here I am talking to you on a dead mic, explaining the sneaker wave situation and my view of the sea stacks with the main light source behind them. After I show you the images, there is a short film I made for Facebook showing the sneaker wave and an image from another video showing the result of not being aware. A sneaker wave is a rogue wave that is much higher than that of many previous waves. It surges up the beach much further and then retracts back. If it knocks someone off their feet as it comes in, it can drag them back out to sea. The conditions for the extreme drawback are found just round the headland at the beach I wanted to visit. This is because of a sea shelf just off the coast, causing a really powerful retreat of the water. The image at the end of the short video is from there. Search YouTube for sneaker waves after you've watched today's vlog from me. Well, we managed to leave the beach with dry feet, and we headed up the hill in the car to the Vic Untitled Church, which is very famous, well photographed, and another honeypot location for photographers. I'd researched quite intensively before going there and had a good idea of what I wanted to do. As expected, I quickly found a path up the small hill behind the church and took some images. But I really did not like the town showing, as it's not exactly pretty. I moved down and stood in a snow patch and got a second composition of the church and sea stacks. But I was still not happy. I just don't like those buildings. I ended up back down at car park level to get the final image that I was actually happy with. I then got a few more sea stack images with the 200mm lens, knowing that I would be cropping in. I was happy with this one, as you can even see the gulls flying around the stacks. Then it was straight back into the car and the drive up to Reykjavik, as we had decided now to go on the Aurora tour tonight. As we left, the light was awesome, the sun low and the sea spray filling the air. We had more snow to drive through, which passed as quickly as it arrived, allowing scenes of jagged, rocky mountains dwarfing houses at the base. The snow did get worse as we dropped back towards Reykjavik, and it was getting darker, so the camera was put away. So we got back to the hotel about 8 o'clock at night, got through the doors and were greeted by the receptionist with the words, "The Aurora tours are all cancelled tonight." Oh God, more disappointment and more rushing back for something that wasn't going to happen. So we took our bags up to the rooms, dumped them, and then went back downstairs and had a beer. The reception desk and the bar is basically one big unit, and we're sitting there supping a beer, and I was halfway through my £6 small beer when a woman came through the front door clutching a clipboard. "Aurora tours, coach outside." What? Even the receptionist was surprised. And I said, "Can I have 5 minutes while I get my camera gear?" "No, 1 minute." So rush again, upstairs, back down, out and into the coach and grab a seat. There weren't many people on the bus, and I think we were one of the last ones to be picked up. So it wasn't a full bus, and I thought, well, this is going to be a nice, intimate activity. And we got to the location, an undisclosed location as far as I was concerned, because I couldn't understand what was being said most of the time. But it was a church between Reykjavik and the main airport, and I can show you on the map here where we ended up. And we joined another probably 6 coaches. Again, not all full, but now there's quite a few people there. But when we arrived, the weather was absolutely horrendous. There was horizontal sleet and rain going past the windows, and although it was pitch black, there was enough light from vehicles to see this snow, and it was like, oh my God, this is no point in being here. But because it was so windy, and as per the rest of the day, that blew through quite quickly, and we were able to get out the bus, go for a wander and see where we were. And the church that was there, although it had lights at the top and was one street light, I was able to get some images with the phone and capture that, which looked okay for social media, but pretty much not much anything else, because it was quite grainy, because it was literally pitch black. And then a call went out, "Hot chocolate." I was like, "Ooh, hot chocolate, I'm going to get something out of this after all." So I went off and joined the queue and got a nice hot chocolate. And halfway through that, there was another call went out. "They're here." "They're here? Who's here now?" "The lights are here." And I looked up and you could see the clouds had parted, and we all moved away from the coaches to an open area towards the water, and there was a guy there pointing in a certain direction, basically between the clouds. So I took my phone out and I pointed it at it, making sure the camera was open, pointed it at the sky, and to my amazement, I didn't even need to take a photograph, but the iPhone 13 Max Pro screen was able to pick up, the camera on the screen was able to pick up the aurora just by doing that. Absolutely amazing. So I was able to take a few pictures with the phone, before going to the coach and getting the big bag and the proper camera. Set that up on the tripod, started to take pictures, and then got interrupted by somebody asking, could I take the picture? And I don't mind doing this, and he realised I was able to get images on the phone, so I used my phone to take a picture of him and his girlfriend and then airdropped it to them. So these are the images I took with the main camera. I wouldn't say they're the best in the world. I've actually taken better in Scotland, but at least I can say I saw the aurora when I was in Iceland. Well, we'll miss the peak of the aurora. All the apps said they'd be happening between 11 and 12, and the coach had to start back to Reykjavik at 11 o'clock. We got back into town and had a nice tour all over Reykjavik as we dropped people off at their various hotels, and ours was pretty much the last hotel. So Dawn and I decided we really needed to eat, and we headed across the road to Domino's pizza place and found that we could buy a pizza not much more expensive, if not the same price as we would get one in the UK. Very, very pleased about that. So we had that, headed back to the hotel, and I headed back to bed at about 12:30, totally and utterly exhausted. And the alarm was set for 6 o'clock in the morning. And the result of me being that tired that night meant my ME hit me hard the next day, and I missed out on the Golden Circle tour with the girls, but I managed to drag myself out of bed in time to do a short video for you walking around Reykjavik. So that's coming out soon, and what's going to follow that is another video where I'm going to be analysing 4 of the pictures from this video. And if you've been noting, you'll see in the corner there's been a number appearing. But to save you going back through the video, I'm going to show you those pictures just now. And I would like you to send me a little constructive critique on the image, for the composition, light, or whatever. Maybe it could have developed it a little bit better in Lightroom. Whatever you think. I'd really, really appreciate it, because my plan is to do a little bit of deconstruction of the images, if that's the right word, or I can't remember what the right word is. My ME head's not working, but basically show you what I was doing with the photographs at the time and how I feel the composition went. But I'd like to add your comments as well to that video. That's coming out after the next video, so it'll be a few weeks away yet, so you've got a little bit of time, and that would be wonderful if you could do that. But until then, I would like to say thank you very much for watching. It's been a long time getting this video out because of my ME, so thanks for watching it all the way through. I know this is probably one of the longest videos I've ever put out. The next one will be a lot shorter, and I'd like to wish you, well, not wish you, I'd like to encourage you to get out, take pictures and have fun, no matter how bad you actually feel. Bye for now. Speak to you soon.